Hi, everyone. Welcome to a Diary of a Disheveled Christian, myself. And today we're going to jump into a Bible study about Moses. I got some really great things that I bet you didn't know. So stick with me. When you're beginning as a Christian, or you're maybe coming back and just really deciding to take the Bible seriously, it can be daunting. It can be exhausting sometimes. And there can also be like just complete brain fog where you're like, what did I just read? Or like mind twist, where then you're saying, what did I just read? But in a whole different way, because you just do not understand it. The thing is, though, is that the Bible is not it's not an exhausted list of books, right? This was going on for thousands of years. The time span of the Bible is for thousands of years, and there were many other people that were writing about different things that had happened. And the Dead Sea Scrolls, they're digging up scrolls all the time. They've already dug up a bunch of scrolls. So there's also historians that have written about some of these things. So if you were to just go a little outside the Bible, you are going to find so much meat there that can like really get you such richness when you do read the Bible. Now, some people are completely against this, but in this channel, we're not. So if you want to know more and you want to dive a little deeper, stay with me. Today, we are actually going to do our first Bible study, and it's going to be some of the very cool, interesting things that I have found about Moses. So as a baby Moses, we're going to do several series, a couple parts on Moses, because there's a lot as he gets a little older. I have just found that this is fascinating. Like, so even for myself, I've been reading the Bible for many years, but I was stuck just inside the Bible. Now, don't get me wrong. If you find things that you're reading outside the Bible and it doesn't go along with what you are reading, you're just going to have to let that one go, right? And if it's right or if it's wrong, we won't know till we get to heaven. But if you find some things that just give you more context and go right along with the story, there's a good chance you can ride with that. I certainly do. I love when it adds more richness to a story, gives me more about the person or the situation. Now, my Bible studies are going to be slightly different. I think this should be fun. I want this to be a fun environment for everyone, including myself. So let's get our little trusty glasses on and let's get going. So inside the Bible, in Exodus 2, it's fast. There's very little about Moses. There is a tiny bit about him being a baby, which, if you don't know, I'm not going to read you everything. You have to read some of this for yourself. But when he was a baby, Pharaoh wanted to kill all of the children. And so his mother, who is a Hebrew woman, obviously puts him in a basket, sends him down the river to keep him safe. So she's hoping the Pharaoh's daughter is going to find the baby and wants to have a Hebrew mother who was just nursing come and raise this baby for her. It's an infant. It's a brand new baby. So they do that. And weirdly enough, the mother that they find is his real mother. And so she goes ahead and she nurses the baby. There's some differences between old writings as to how long she is taking care of this baby. It doesn't give exact dates, but some of the writings say that by the time he's 3, he is now with the Pharaoh's daughter, and she is taking care of him as her own child. So in the Bible, it's very fast, and it runs through collecting him as a baby, him being a small child, the Pharaoh collecting him as a small child, raising him for her own, and then just talks a little bit about as he's older. Well, again, not sure on the dates, but some say right around the age of 18, he gets himself into trouble and he has to leave. That's it. That's all we know. I mean, that's not enough. That's not enough. It's like 3 little paragraphs and Moses's whole childhood is wrapped up in a nutshell. So you have to figure somebody's got to have something, right? Well, I've got you. Now, the reason I think the part of Moses in the Bible is so short is because Moses is writing it. And I believe that Moses wanted the focus to be on the lineup, right? The story. This happens, then this happens, then this. The story is about the Exodus. It's about how God uses him to free the Jews, right? And it's all mostly about his interaction with the Pharaoh and the Pharaoh's interaction with the Jews and that whole lineup. So I think that Moses was being humble. I think he just didn't want to place all the story on him because he felt he wasn't important. Like, what does it matter how I was as a child, right? I was in a basket. I got collected by Pharaoh's daughter. Moving on. And I just think that he didn't feel that the spotlight needed to be on him. That's my take. So that's why I think that the part about him is so small. Okay, that was the Bible. So now if we go outside, I have some other goodies for you. There's a lot of great stuff in other books. I highly think that you should look into some of these other ancient writings when you're doing your Bible study and get what you can get. If you know more about this topic, please leave it in the comments below because I'm always learning and I enjoy every minute of it. So let's go to, how funny. These are preventing me from reading well, actually, but they're cute, aren't they? Okay, so let's get in here. This book is Josephus. Now, I covered my Josephus, so I can't actually share it to you. Can't tell you what it was. But yeah, that's mine. But in Josephus, chapter 9, it goes from, the part that we're going to cover today is from verses 5 to 7. This is meaty, guys. This is so fun. Okay, so little discrepancy on the daughter of Pharaoh's name. It could just be translation issues. That's what I think it is. It's just going from one language to the other. Does it matter to us? Not really. I'm never going to meet her. Doesn't matter what her name was, but this is the story. So in Josephus, her name is Thermuthis. Say that 3 times fast. Okay. So it talks about that she is the Pharaoh's daughter, right? And she collects the baby. That's in chapter 5, about the baby in the water. She collects him. Then it moves on to talk about some details about him as a child, which I just love. So it says, now Moses' understanding became superior in his age. Again, thinking, he's around 3 by the time she gets him, maybe a little younger. So we don't exactly know when this is. And it says, nay, for behold that standard. And when he was taught, he discovered greater quickness and apprehension than was usual at his age. That action in his time comes to promise later that greater things will come as he ages to a man. So this is exciting. Like already we know something different about him, that he was actually very, very smart as a child. Now, maybe his humble way, he left this out of the Bible because, again, who cares about him, right? So he's thinking probably. But I find this to be very interesting. Also, what we didn't know, he was quite the looker. So it says, God did also give him that tallness when he was but 3 years old. This is how we kind of know the age group. As was wonderful. And as for his beauty, there was nobody so unpolite as him. Good looking. When they saw Moses, they were not greatly surprised at the beauty of his countenance. Nay, it happened frequently that those who met the child as he was being carried along the road were obliged to turn around and upon seeing the child, and left what they were doing to stand still a great while and look at him. For the beauty of the child was so remarkable and natural to him on many accounts. I mean, wow. So he's such a pretty baby. That's so fun. I mean, we know that Apparently he's catching on. He's very, very smart. Like so smart they're noticing, right? He's really tall for his age and he's beautiful. One could only get so lucky, right? Chapter 9, verse 7, it talks about him. It says, Thermusis, therefore, perceiving him to be so remarkable a child, so she already knows this, adopted him for her son, having no child of her own. How does she know that he's a remarkable child? It must be just that she notices how pretty the baby is at this point. So this is kind of going back a little when she's getting him out of the water, out of the basket. Okay. And when one time she was carrying Moses to her father, she showed him to him and said that she thought he would make her father's successor. So, she's already got plans for this baby to take over everything. For if it should please the God, she should have no legitimate child of her own. And she said to him, I have brought up this child who is of divine form. I wonder, though, like there's no more to this. What is it that she sees that she's like, this baby is of divine form? What? Like, was he glowing? Like, what was it with this baby? Ooh, and if he had some sort of a glow, that would be kind of cool. That might be another reason why people would stop and stare at him. I don't know. Pretty cool, though. The children of had a divine form and of generous mind, and I have received him from the bounty of the river. Okay, and then it says, and when she had said this, she put the infant into her father's hands, so that he took him, and he hugged him close to his breast, and on his daughter's account, in a pleasant way. So he's loving on this baby. He's happy for her, right? She's now got a baby, and he's so cute. So he's all about this. But then it says he puts the diadem upon his head, meaning his crown. So he takes his crown off and he puts it on the baby's head. And it says, and Moses threw it down to the ground. I don't know about this, y'all. As a 3-year-old, I could see that, just yanking it, throwing it. My kids never let me put hats on them either. But it says that he wreathed it around and trotted upon it with his feet. I mean, that part, I don't know. An infant yanking something off their head, throwing it to the floor, sure, I could see that. But it says that he kind of like took it off his head, he swirled it around, he threw it down, then he trotted it with his feet. Well, the reason I don't buy that is because it's not a normal behavior for a 3-year-old, but also, now I get it, he was super smart, but also, if you remember, Pharaoh was holding him. Remember? Holding him to his breast. He was a baby. So I don't know about that. We'll have to see if we can find more about that, or if somebody knows more about that, then again, please share that with us. So it says that he threw it to the ground, right? Well, when this happens, everybody starts freaking out. But when the sacred scribes saw this, he made violent attempt to kill him, and crying out in a frightful manner, and he said, this, O king, this child is he of whom God foretold. They think they've got prophecy of this baby. That if we kill him, that we should no longer be in danger. He himself affords the attestation to prediction of the same thing by his trampling upon thy government and treading upon thy diadem. Take him, therefore, out of the way, and deliver the Egyptians from the fear that they are in about him, and deliver the Hebrews out of the hope that they have of being encouraged by him. But it says that his mother prevented him from doing anything, snatched the baby away, and then it says that, God was the reason that he inclined Moses to not harm the baby at the moment. But this is really interesting. I don't know if that's exactly how that played out, but it's really interesting, right? That now they're all freaking out over him. He's only a baby. And yet they're all like, oh my God, he's going to take over the kingdom. Okay, that's in Josephus. Now, some good stuff here. If we move on to Yasher. So in Yasher, it is chapter 70, and this is verse 1 through 31. It does start same way about the baby in the basket. But this says, in the 3rd year from the birth of Moses. That's again, same with Josephus, we know that he's around 3 years old. That Pharaoh was sitting at a banquet with the queen. And the queen was sitting on his right, and Batia, this one they call him Batia. Her name was different in the other one. Who is she? Nobody cares, right? To his left. And the lad Moses was lying on her bosom. And Balaam, the son of Beor, these are like sorcerers, and with his 2 sons, and all the princes of the kingdom were sitting at the table with the king in his presence. And the lad Moses stretched forth his hand upon the king's head, took the crown from the king, and placed it on his own head. Now this, okay, we're starting out, same thing. I could see a 3-year-old doing that, right? Holding this 3-year-old. He's probably not sitting. He's going to want to stand, makes him a little taller. He's acting up. Maybe he grabs the king's thing, puts on his head. Okay, I could totally see this happening. All right. So then it says, and when the king and princes saw the work which the boy had done, the king and the princes were terrified. Here we go again. Everybody's worked up over this move. And one man to his neighbor expressed astonishment. So then it goes on. They're all whispering, chatting about this. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So then the Pharaoh's like, dude, what is happening? What are y'all talking about? And it says, Balaam, the son of Beor, the magician, answered before the king and princes and said, remember now, O my master king, the dream in which there was the few days ago, in which the servant interpreted for you. Now, therefore, this is the child from the Hebrew children, he whom the Ruha of Elohim, which means Spirit of God. So they're thinking, they know also in this account, in Yasher, they also know that the Spirit of God is with this baby. Do not let my master the king imagine that this youth did this thing without knowledge. So they're saying because God is with him, we know this baby's up to something at 3 years old. For he is a Hebrew boy, and he has wisdom and understanding, even though he is still a child. And with this wisdom, he has done this and chosen for himself the kingdom of Mitzrayim. For this is the manner of all the Hebrews, to deceive the kings and their nobles, to do all these things cunningly, in order to make the kings of the earth and their men tremble. So now they're the Hebrews are their slaves, for crying out loud. And these magicians are in his ear talking to the Pharaoh about how, the Hebrews are trying to set you up, and including this baby. Okay, so then it goes on. They talk a little bit about, a backstory about, remember when this happened, that happened, whatever. Okay. But then we move on to verse 18, and it says, now, therefore, the master and king, behold, this child has risen up in Mitzrayim to do according to the deeds, to trifle with every king, prince, and judge. So they think that this 3-year-old baby is out to get him. If it pleases the king, let us now spill his blood upon the ground. This is like twice, right? So in Josephus, the story says they want to kill this baby. Same thing here. They're like, just be done with him. If we could just get rid of him now, no hope for the Hebrews. We don't have to worry about him growing up and rising up. Let's just off with him. Lest he grow up and take away the reign from your hands. Okay. And the king said to Balaam, let us, moreover, call for all the judges of Mitzrayim and the wise men, and let us know how we should judge this baby. Should it be death? Okay. So he's saying, all right, I'm not going to make the decision. Let's call in some wise men, not you magicians, but some wise men, and see what they think. So it goes on. He calls the wise men, and they come up with this idea that they want him to bring two stones. There's going to be an onyx stone, a black onyx stone, and a black piece of coal. But the coal is going to be burning. It's going to be super hot. Now, this is very interesting, you guys. Okay, and it says, and the messenger who seems like one of the wise men of the Pharaoh answers and says, there before all the wise men of Mitzrayim and before the king and the prince, and if it pleases the king, let the king send for men who shall bring forth an onyx stone and a coal of fire, and place them in front of the child. And if the child stretches out his hand and takes the onyx stone, then we will know that with wisdom has the youth done all that he has done, and we must kill him. But if he stretches out his hand upon the hot coal, then we shall know that it was not with knowledge that he had done these things, and he will live. Right, because if he has wisdom, he's clearly not going to grab this hot stone. And all the things seemed good in the eyes of the king and the prince, and the king did so according to the words of the messengers of God. And the king ordered for the onyx stone and the coal to be brought forth. Okay. And they placed the boy before them. And the boy went and stretched out forth his hand to grab the onyx stone. Right? Because God is with him. And the messenger of God took his hand and placed it upon the coal. So I'm assuming this isn't physically going to be happening in front of there must be a spirit of the messenger, because otherwise they're going to go, wait, you can't touch the baby. So clearly the spirit of the messenger moves the baby's hand. And he lifted up the hot coal, and it says that it was extinguished in his hand. So it didn't burn his hand. Even though the coal was hot, he was able to pick it up. However, when he placed it in his mouth, it burned part of his lips and part of his tongue. And he became heavy in mouth and tongue. And when the king and the princes saw this, they knew that Moses had not acted with wisdom in taking off the crown from the king's head. So they refrained from killing him, and he remained in the Pharaoh's house. Okay, let's back up for a second. This whole story is awesome, you guys. This gives so much context to the Bible, and I'll tell you why. So we know now what happens with him as a baby, that he gets this stone in his mouth and it burns him. Therefore it scars, I'm sure of it. It's going to scar his lips. It's going to scar his tongue. And it basically gives him some sort of a speech impediment. Now, a lot of people I've watched say that he had a stuttering issue. I don't know where that comes from. I have not read that. If you know, please comment below so I can go check it out. But otherwise, that is not what these are saying, okay? But let's go back to the actual Bible. And this time we're in Exodus 4, chapter 10. So there's been the burning bush, and God is now speaking to Moses, and he's telling him that I want you to go back to the Pharaoh. Okay, because we've grown up now. Moses has grown up, and he's left. You may not know the story. If you don't, you're going to have to go back and finish reading. But he's grown now, and he's going. God wants him to go back and set the Hebrews free, get the Pharaoh to cooperate. And so while they're talking in chapter 4, verse 10, and it says, Moses says unto the Lord, O my Lord, I'm not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow to speech and of slow tongue. And the Lord said unto him, Who hath made man's mouth? And who hath made the dumb and the deaf and the seeing and the blind? Have not I the Lord? Okay, so what this passage, if you're just reading the Bible, you know that God goes and speaks to him. And Moses is like, whoa. I don't want to go talk to the Pharaoh. I have a speech problem, right? I'm slow at speech. I'm not eloquent when I talk, and I am slow to tongue. So it's like he can't form his words properly. but it doesn't explain why. And that's what's so fun about going to some of the other writings, because now we know why he says this. Now we know he has a messed up lips and tongue. So he doesn't speak like everyone else. Again, not sure where people are getting stuttering from, because that doesn't equal stuttering. But I like this. I like this. Like these stories explain this so well. And then as it goes a little bit further in Exodus 4:16, then it says, God tells him, well, then I'm going to set up your brother Aaron as the spokesperson. So we don't know. Obviously, Moses speaks sometimes, but a lot of times Aaron is going to step up and Moses can tell him what to say. And Aaron's going to stand there and yell it to everybody and tell everyone. But I just find all of this very, very fascinating. Now, I do have a little tiny bit more. So this is another book I have. It's the Mysteries of the Bible, Reader's Digest. And in this one, it talks a little bit about Moses. A lot of it is just, a repeat, same thing that we already know. But here's a little piece that we don't know. This is talking about, he's not a baby, but now he's a child. And so it says that the philosopher Philo told how Moses quickly surpassed teachers brought in from all parts of the world, and he mastered every branch of knowledge. Like, again, with the super smartness, right? This kid is getting, he's in the Pharaoh's house. He's getting top of the top education, clearly. And it says they're bringing him in from all over the world, and he's mastering all of this. In later stories, the young Moses was credited with many achievements, from inventing hieroglyphics. If anyone knows where I can find this, please share it, because I want to read this. When it's talking about in later stories. Okay, where? I want these stories. Teaching philosophy to the Greeks. That's pretty cool, I guess, because he's so smart. He's got all this education. But now the raised Egyptian is going to go hang out and teach the Greeks. That's pretty cool. And to engineering, irrigation, machinery. So he's also inventing things. Like, seriously? This is, again, not in the Bible, but let's go find this. Like, hey, this is pretty cool. But I gotta be honest, like the hieroglyphics thing, are you telling me that he invented hieroglyphics? Because he's getting all this education, plus he has, he's absorbing it so well because he's getting all this from God, that his mind is like super smart. So he actually puts together, like, how can we take this information I have and make pictures of it and basically create the Egyptian language? Like, wow, that is so awesome. So that concludes our very first Bible study. I hope that you enjoyed it. I certainly did. And I cannot wait to keep moving forward and see what happens with Moses next. So if you enjoyed this, come back. We're going to do a part 2, probably a part 3. I don't know, just depending on how interesting Moses' life is. But certainly he writes very, very little of himself in the Bible. So I'm so blessed to have this extra here so we can really build up on this whole story. If you found something super interesting, let me know in the comments below. Tell me the part that blew you away. The hieroglyphics thing kind of blew me away, not going to lie. But I'd love to hear what you thought was the most interesting thing. And again, if you know any place I can get more that builds on the baby or the youth of Moses, please share that so that myself and everyone else can go and find it and continue to be educated. And I will see you in the next Bible study. Bring your glasses.